The King's Shame. The Grand Hall of Zarion Prime was cold and quiet. Alien nobles stood around the giant throne made of dark crystals. All eyes were on the tall and powerful King Vatheron, ruler of the warlike Kryn Empire. His face showed no emotion, but his words were like thunder. "She is weak," the king said. "She brings shame to our bloodline." He was talking about his only daughter, Princess Rhea. Rhea stood quietly before him. She had pale lavender skin, glowing, blue eyes and long silver hair, but her body was small and fragile compared to the strong warriors of her kind. She had never won a duel. She had never led soldiers. She spent most of her days reading and dreaming, not fighting. "She is not fit to be a warrior," said one noble. "She cannot be queen," said another. The king raised his hand to silence them. He turned to his top general. "Find the human, the one called Jace Carter. Give her to him." Gasps filled the hall. Giving a royal daughter to a human, a species considered primitive, was unthinkable. But no one dared question the king. Rhea didn't cry. She didn't beg. She only asked one question. Why him? King Vatheron stepped down from his throne and walked slowly to her. "Because humans survived the impossible. Maybe he can teach you something I could not." That was the last thing he said to her. The next morning, a royal shuttle flew her to the edge of the galaxy, to a cold and wild planet called Tarsus 9. It was a death world for most species, full of snow-covered forests and dangerous beasts. No palace, no servants, only survival. There, in a wooden cabin hidden in the hills, lived the human, Jace Carter. Jace was once a war hero. He had fought in the great alien wars as a mercenary. But now he lived alone with his old scars and a stubborn heart. When the shuttle landed outside his cabin, he came out holding a metal staff and wearing thick furs. He looked at Rhea, then at the two royal guards. "Is this some kind of joke?" he asked. "No," said the guard. "King's order. She is yours now." Rhea stepped forward, her breath forming clouds in the freezing air. She looked tired. Lost. "I won't be a burden," she said softly. Jace stared at her for a long moment. "We'll see," he muttered. The first night was hard. The cabin was small and cold. Jace gave her a spare blanket and a thin mattress. "You sleep there, don't touch my stuff," he said. He cooked a simple meal, roasted root and alien bird meat. She struggled to eat it. "Food is not soft here," Jace said. "Neither is life." Rhea stayed quiet. That night she stared at the wooden ceiling. She missed her warm bed in the palace. She missed the stars outside her window. She missed being someone. The next morning, Jace woke her before the sun rose. "Get dressed. We're going hunting." "Hunting?" she repeated, surprised. "I've never—" "You have now," he interrupted. "Out here you eat what you kill." He threw her a fur coat. It was heavy like the world around her. They walked for hours through snow and trees. Rhea's feet hurt. Her fingers were numb, but Jace didn't slow down. Suddenly, he stopped. He pointed. A four-eyed beast was drinking water from a frozen stream. "Take this," Jace said, handing her a pulse spear. "I don't know how. Figure it out." She stepped forward, her hands shaking. The beast looked up and growled. She froze. Then it charged. Jace didn't move. He watched. Haya screamed and threw the spear. It missed. The beast jumped, and she fell backward into the snow. Jace stepped in, struck the beast in the side, and pushed it away. "It ran off into the forest. You almost died," he said coldly. "I was scared," she whispered. "Good. That means you're still alive." That night Rhea sat by the fire with her arms wrapped around herself. Her legs ached. Her pride was broken. She had never felt so small. But deep inside, something else moved. Not anger, not fear. Something like hunger. Not for food, for strength. She looked at Jace. "Why didn't you save me earlier?" "Because no one's going to save you out here," he said. "You either learn or you die." That night, as the fire crackled and snow fell outside, Rhea made a silent promise to herself. I won't be weak forever. Rhea woke up. Before dawn, her body ached. Her face was sore from the cold wind. Her muscles, soft and unused for years, screamed from yesterday's long walk through the forest. But when she opened her eyes, she didn't see a royal bedroom. There were no golden walls, no silk sheets, only wood, smoke, and the smell of old metal. Jace had already left the cabin. Outside, the sky was still dark. Snowflakes floated in the wind. Rhea stepped out, wrapping herself tightly in the thick fur coat. She saw him in the distance, swinging an axe. He cut logs with powerful, fast strikes, no wasted energy. Each motion was sharp, clean, not like the soft practice swings of palace guards. "You're late," he said without looking at her. "Today we build a trap." "A trap?" she asked, walking toward him. "For food," he replied, "and for you to learn something." Rhea blinked. "I thought you were supposed to train me to fight." Jace dropped the axe. "Fighting is the last step. First, you survive. Then you learn to live with pain. Then you fight." He handed her a heavy bag full of strange metal parts. "Carry this." The forest was cruel. No sound of birds. Only wind. Snow covered every tree like a white grave. Rhea's fingers turned, stiff even inside her gloves. The bag pulled on her shoulder. She fell twice. Jace didn't stop. They reached a clearing near a frozen lake. Jace knelt down and started assembling a pressure trap. Rhea tried to help, but her hands fumbled the pieces. He slapped her hand away. "Not like that," he snapped. "You'll kill us both." "I'm trying," she shouted. "Try harder." The day passed slowly. By sunset, they had set 3 traps. They waited in silence near the lake, hiding behind rocks. Jace said little. Rhea stayed still, watching the snowflakes fall on her hands. Hours passed. Then, a sound. One of the traps triggered. Jace rushed ahead. Rhea followed. They found a wild spike deer thrashing in the trap. Its leg was caught. It hissed and kicked. Wildly, Jace lifted his spear. "Your kill." Rhea's eyes widened. "What? I can't. You eat or you die. No one's coming to help you." She looked into the animal's eyes. They were full of fear, just like hers used to be. She gripped the spear. Hands shaking, she raised it and stabbed. The deer let out a final cry and stopped moving. Rhea dropped the weapon and stared. Blood covered her hands. Her breath was short. She turned to Jace, expecting anger, but he only said, "Good, now clean it." That night, Jace cooked the meat on an open fire. The cabin was warm, filled with the smell of food and smoke. Rhea sat beside the fire. Her face was blank. "You did well," Jace finally said. She looked up at him. "I killed it." "Yes. I didn't think I could." "You didn't have a choice. That's the human way." She took a bite. The meat was rough but warm. It filled her stomach like nothing before. She felt her strength returning. She looked at her hands, still stained with blood. It felt strange, she whispered. "I wasn't just afraid. I was alive." Jace nodded. "Good. Fear means you care, but don't let it stop you." Later she watched him sharpen his blades by the firelight. "What were you before this?" she asked. "A soldier," he said. "A killer, a fool, then a ghost." "Why did the king send me to you?" Jace didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Maybe he hoped the wild would break you, or maybe he wanted to see if you'd fight back." "Would you have let me die if I ran today?" "Yes," he said without emotion. Rhea didn't cry. She didn't shake. She only stared into the fire and whispered, "I won't run again." Outside, the storm grew louder, but inside something was changing, not just in her body, but in her mind. Rhea had never slept so deeply before, but it wasn't comfort that gave her rest, it was exhaustion. Her arms ached, her legs felt like stone. Still, when the sun rose, she stood up without needing to be told. Jace noticed. He said nothing, but there was a slight nod. That was his way of saying, "Good job." The day began with running. Not walking, not training. Running, through snow, over rocks, dodging frozen branches. Jace set the pace fast. Too fast. Rhea fell twice, scraped her palms, cut her lip, but she didn't stop. After hours, they reached a steep hill overlooking the valley. Down below, a trading caravan, alien merchants and hover sleds, was passing through. Too far to reach, Jace said, but perfect view for spotting danger. Rhea wiped the sweat from her brow. Her breath steamed in the air. Jace took a deep breath and said something new. "Today, I'm not helping you." She blinked. "What?" "If you get hurt, I don't save you. If you're scared, you deal with it. If you bleed, stop it yourself. You want to be strong? Then act like it." He handed her a blade. "Let's see what you really are." They moved into the northern trees, an area Jace called the old hunting ground. It was darker here, thicker. The silence was heavy. Suddenly a sound, a low growl from behind the bushes. Jace froze. His eyes narrowed. That's not a deer. A massive shadow leapt from the snow. It was a fang cat, 6 feet tall, long claws, 2 tails and eyes that glowed yellow. Rhea screamed. Jace didn't move. "Run,"
he shouted, but not at the beast. At her. She ran, branches slashing her face, heart pounding, blade shaking in her hand. The fang cat chased her, fast and hungry. She tripped and rolled into a ditch. Mud and snow filled her mouth. Her fingers gripped.
The blade tighter, and then it was there, teeth bared. Rhea stared into its eyes. She didn't see death. She saw herself. Something snapped inside. Her. No more weakness. No more waiting for rescue. She roared back at the beast, just like Jace. The fang cat jumped. She ducked, slashed. It screamed. Blood sprayed across the snow. It clawed her arm. But she stabbed again, and again, and again, until it stopped moving. Silence. Only the sound of her breath, her blood, her heartbeat. The blade fell from her hand. Her legs shook. She dropped to her knees beside the beast's body. Tears fell onto its fur, not because she was sad, but because she had done it, alone. Jace appeared minutes later. He looked down at the scene, at the bloody snow, at the torn coat, at her wounded arm. He knelt beside her. "Not bad." She didn't reply. He handed her a cloth. "Clean your cut, then clean your kill." They dragged the body back to camp. It took hours. Her muscles screamed again, but her grip never loosened. That night, Jace sat by the fire, skinning the fang cat. Rhea watched silently, her wound bandaged with snow herb leaves. "Do you understand now?" he asked. "What?" "Why I didn't help." She nodded slowly. "Because the galaxy doesn't help." "No," he said. "Because I knew you could. Do it." She blinked at him. That was the first kind thing he had ever said. They ate the meat of the fang cat. It was bitter, but rich. Jace handed her the beast's sharpest tooth. "Keep this." She turned it in her hands. "What for?" "For remembering." "Who killed it?" She looked up. "Who am I now?" He answered simply. "Not a princess. Not a warrior yet, but something stronger." That night, Rhea lay awake. The fang cat's tooth hung around her neck on a leather string. She touched it. It was cold. But inside her chest, something burned. Hot and fierce. For the first time in her life, she didn't cry because she was weak. She cried because she knew she was becoming dangerous. The stars above Tarsus 9 blinked like watching eyes. The galaxy had forgotten about Princess Rhea. Her name was no longer whispered in noble circles. Her face had vanished from the data feeds. The weak girl was gone, buried under snow, blood, and silence. But rumors had begun to stir again. A trader from the northern camps told stories. She fought off a fang cat alone, She walks in the woods at night with no light. She trains like a deathborn. She laughs when she bleeds. At first, no one believed them. But soon, other voices joined in, and the name returned to the stars. Rhea Vatharan, the ghost princess of the wild. That winter, Jace built a new shelter, larger, deeper into the woods. Rhea helped lift logs and hammer stone like a warrior, not a noble. She didn't flinch from firewood burns or bruises anymore. Every morning she trained with spears and knives. Every night she learned human tactics from Jace, how to read footprints, how to hear a lie, how to fight without moving a muscle. Her mind grew sharp, her body became steel, and her eyes, once soft, now burned like twin blue blades. One evening, Jace tossed her a metal wristband. "What's this?" she asked. "Tracker," he said. "Royal signal's been pinging for days. Looks like your daddy wants to see what you've become." Rhea stared at it. The band blinked slowly. Red light, royal code, her hands curled into fists. "I'll show him," she whispered, "but not the way he expects." The next week, Rhea entered an underground arena hidden in the old mines of Tarsus 9. Fighters from across the sector came to prove their strength. Some were soldiers. Some were beasts in armor. Some were banished royalty like her, hungry for something. Jace had said nothing when she left for the arena. He only said, "Don't fight for revenge, fight for control." She stepped into the ring with no armor, just cloth wraps and her father's insignia painted in blood across her chest. The crowd of aliens roared. Her opponent was a Genkar brute, 7 feet tall, bone-plated arms, fangs like daggers. He charged at her, laughing. He stopped laughing when she shattered his kneecap. In the next breath, she broke his jaw, then his ribs. Then she knelt beside him and whispered, "Do you see weakness now?" She won 4 matches that night. By morning, her name echoed through comms and markets. The alien king's disgrace has returned as a monster. Rhea the Ruthless. The human-forged blade. The king heard the reports from his throne. "She bleeds. Kryn blood," said one general, "but fights like no Kryn I've seen." "She fights like a human," said another, spitting in disgust. King Vatharan stared at a screen showing Rhea's last match. He leaned back slowly, face unreadable. "Send for the royal enforcers," he ordered. "Bring her home, or bring back her bones." Days later, a squad of black-armored enforcers landed on Tarsus 9. They found the arena, but it was empty. They found her old shelter, but it was burned down. They followed her tracker, right into a trap. Snow exploded beneath their feet. Nets of bone wire shot up. Blades hidden in tree trunks swung out. 2 enforcers were shredded instantly. The rest fired into the forest wildly. Rhea dropped from the trees above like a shadow. She moved fast, quiet, like Jace had taught her. 3 more fell. She stood over the last one, bleeding, but still breathing. She took off her hood. "Tell my father," she said calmly. "The girl he abandoned is dead. What stands now is what humans call a warrior." Back at camp, Jace stitched her wounds by the firelight. He didn't ask what happened, he didn't need to. She wore the blood like war paint. Her eyes were calm. "You've changed," he finally said. She looked up. "Did I pass your tests?" "There were no tests," Jace replied. "Only life. And you survived." She smiled, not a soft smile, but the smile of someone who knew her own power. That night, Rhea took her father's old royal crest, melted it in the fire, and shaped it into a new weapon, a dagger, one side curved like a fang, the other sharp and smooth like a human blade. She whispered to it, "You carry both my names, one of shame, one of strength." The stars above Tarsus 9 still blinked, but now they blinked in fear, because something had been born in the wild. Not just a fighter, not just a warrior, but a new kind of royalty, one shaped not by crowns but by scars. The sky above Kryn Prime turned blood red at dusk. After years in silence, a royal shuttle arrived without warning, low, silent, and shining like polished steel. The same halls that once whispered cruel jokes about Princess Rhea now echoed, with shock. She had returned, not in royal robes but in battle gear, dark leather, steel-studded, her face scarred, eyes glowing like burning stars. Behind her walked Jace Carter, calm and cold, like a loaded weapon. The throne hall fell silent. As she entered, King Vatheron sat on his towering crystal seat flanked by generals, nobles, and priests. His gaze was hard, calculating. "My daughter," he said with a voice like stone. "You've caused a stir." "I am not your daughter," she answered. Murmurs rose like thunder. He didn't flinch. "Then why come back?" "To end what you started," she said. "To prove you were wrong." He leaned forward. "You want the throne?" She shook her head. "I want the right to fight for it." The entire court went still. Kryn tradition was clear. Only those of royal blood who passed the trial of fire could claim leadership in times of crisis. It was an ancient combat, a public duel, not just of strength but of control, pain, and survival. Most never lived to finish it. Many doubted she would make it through the first hour. The next day the trial began. The arena was a massive circle of fire-lit stones. Hundreds of warriors filled the stands, Kryn elites, alien diplomats, and hidden spies from across the stars. They all came to watch the shameful daughter fall. Her opponent, Commander Therax, the king's personal champion. 8 feet tall, born in fire, his armor was fused to his skin. He had broken bones with his hands. He had ended wars with one scream. He had never been defeated. Until now, he had never fought someone trained by a human. Rhea entered the ring with only 2 weapons, her self-forged dagger and a short blade once owned by Jace. Therax laughed when he saw her. "Your blood is weak," he said. Rhea stared at him, unmoving. "Your mind is slower than your tongue," she replied. The horn sounded. Therax attacked like thunder, massive strikes, heavy swings. The ground cracked under his steps. Rhea danced around him, light, sharp, precise. One cut to the side, another to the back of his knee. He roared and grabbed her arm, smashing her into the ground. Bones cracked. Blood spilled. The crowd gasped. She lay still for a moment. Jace stood in the stands, watching, waiting, not shouting, because he knew. Rhea opened her eyes. She didn't see the fire. She didn't feel the pain. She heard her father's voice from years ago. She is weak. She heard Jace's voice, survive, then fight. And inside her chest, something snapped again, something ancient, something royal. She rose. Her next move was brutal. She twisted, broke free, and stabbed Therax through the joint in his armor. He fell to one knee. She didn't stop. Elbow to his face, knee to his gut. She leapt, spun, and slammed her dagger into his shoulder. The giant let out a howl and collapsed, beaten. The arena went silent. Rhea didn't look at the crowd. She only looked at her father and said, "This is what weakness becomes when it's forced to fight alone." The king stood slowly. No applause. No pride. Only quiet respect. "You bled for your place," he said. "I built it without you," she replied. The next morning she stood before the people of Kryn, not as a daughter, not as a victim, but as something new. They called her Fireborn, now, not because she survived the trial, but because she chose to walk through it, and didn't burn. Snow fell on Kryn Prime for the first time in 100 years. No one understood why. Some said it was a rare climate shift. Others whispered that the world itself was reacting to her return. Rhea stood on the balcony of the royal tower, watching the white flakes land softly on black stone. She wore no crown, no robes, only a long coat stitched from leather and battle scars. Behind her, the throne room buzzed with confusion. The court didn't know what to do with her. She passed the trial. She has the right, said one elder. But she turned her back on royal law, said another. She trained with humans, spat a noble. Her blood is poisoned. King Vatheron said nothing. He sat on his throne like a statue carved from storm, but his eyes were not still. They were watching her. Rhea walked in, quiet but heavy like thunder. Jace followed her, clean boots, serious face, eyes sharp as ever. They had returned to claim nothing, only to challenge everything. I don't want your throne, Rhea said clearly. I want to fix what it stands for, the court murmured. You want to rule without ruling? One general asked mockingly. I want to lead the broken, she replied. The ones you cast out, the ones like I used to be. The king's voice rumbled through the hall. And if I say no, she stepped closer. Then I'll show them how to follow without your permission. The hall went silent. No one dared speak, except the king. Then you leave me no choice. He raised his hand. From the side gate, a massive figure walked in, his face hidden beneath a black war helm, armor crackling with power. General Varnock, the last unchallenged commander of Kryn's outer armies. The kingdom must stay whole, the king declared. If I must destroy my own blood to protect it, so be it. Jace stepped forward. She doesn't fight alone. But Rhea stopped him with a hand. No, she said. This fight is mine. She turned to the court. If I defeat your strongest, without a weapon, will you finally stop seeing me as weak? The king narrowed his eyes. You'll die. Then remember this moment forever. The battle began in the old throne pit, once used for executions, now lit by fire columns. Varnock moved like a machine, brutal, fast, relentless. Rhea didn't dodge him. She faced him head-on. He swung a plasma mace. She caught it with bare hands. Her fingers burned, but she didn't let go. Every strike he made, she absorbed or turned. Every hit she took, she returned with double force. The people above watched in awe. This wasn't a noble fighting. This was a storm, controlled, precise, human-taught fury. At the end, she disarmed him, snapped his weapon in half and held the broken shaft to his throat. Then, she dropped it. I don't need a weapon to prove what I am. Varnock fell to his knees. When she turned, the crowd didn't cheer. They bowed. The king rose. His eyes met hers. For the first time in years, his voice was quiet. You became more than I ever expected. You made me less than you should have, she replied. But I still returned. Later that night, she walked through the streets. No guards, no soldiers. Only whispers followed her. Not the weak girl, not the lost daughter. Only one name, the warrior queen. But she only smiled once when Jace looked at her and said, You didn't return as royalty. You returned as a legend. The stars above Kryn Prime had never looked so clear. From her tower, Rhea could see the entire capital glowing below, lights stretching like veins across the black stone of her homeworld. But this time, the light did not belong to her father. It belonged to her. The weak girl was gone, the forgotten daughter was gone, the fighter remained, and tonight, the queen would rise. That morning, the palace council gathered again, but this time she sat at the head of the table. Not her father, not the generals, her. Some stared in silence. Others kept their eyes down. She didn't wear a crown. She didn't need one. A scar across her cheek, the fang-cat tooth hanging from her neck, and the self-forged blade at her side told her story better than jewels ever could. Jace Carter stood behind her. He didn't speak, but his presence spoke louder than any words. He was the human who shaped her, not with kindness, but with fire. I am not here to become a throne warmer, Rhea said. Her voice was sharp, calm. I'm here to rebuild this empire. A noble scoffed. With what? Fire and fists? With purpose, she said. With warriors who remember what pain feels like. With outcasts who were thrown away like I was. The council didn't argue after that, because outside the palace, something had begun. Crowds gathered in the city. Old soldiers. Starving. Children. slave-born, refugees, all shouting one name, Rhea, the fire-born, warrior queen, but peace never came easy. That night, an enemy fleet appeared on the edges of Kryn space. The Varn Dominion. They had once allied with King Vatheron, but now, seeing the throne pass to a half-human savage, they wanted blood. A message came through. Surrender the throne to someone worthy, or prepare for destruction. Rhea read it once. Then calmly, she stood. Prepare the fleet, she said. We don't kneel anymore. In the royal hangars, ancient warships powered up for the first time in decades. Soldiers who once gave up their armor returned to serve under her command. But the army wasn't just noble, trained warriors. She chose exiles, arena fighters, escaped slaves, and even humans from distant colonies. Her army was not pure. It was powerful, because it knew pain, and it was loyal, only to her. Jace walked beside her as the fleet prepared for war. You could run, he said. Still time. She looked at him and smiled. I'm not running anymore. I want them to see me coming. The battle took place above the ice moon of Kor. The Dominion expected a weak response. Instead, they met a fleet with fire in its engines. Hayaya herself piloted the lead ship. Her orders were simple. Burn through them. And they did. She used human tactics, unexpected, brutal, fast. The Dominion fleet broke apart like dry wood. Their flagship tried to retreat, but Rhea followed. Inside the enemy bridge, the Varn commander trembled. You're not a queen, he spat. You're a freak. She pressed her blade to his neck. No, she whispered. I'm what comes, after kings like you fall. She walked out before the ship exploded behind her. Back on Kryn Prime, the people waited in silence. Then, one by one, comms lit up across the city. Victory. The war was over before it ever really began. 3 days later, the coronation was held. But it was not like the old ones. No golden crowns, no wine, no songs. Just a single platform in the center of the capital, where thousands gathered. Alien, human, noble, common. Rhea stepped forward alone. The people stood silent, watching her. Then a little girl from the crowd ran up, holding a flower. Rhea knelt, took the flower, placed it behind her ear, then stood tall, and the people roared. After the ceremony, she walked with Jace through the empty royal garden. It's strange, she said. All this power doesn't feel heavy. That's because you didn't take it, Jace replied. You earned it. She looked at him for a long time. You shaped me, she said. No, he answered. I just gave you pain. You turned it into strength. She paused. I want you to stay. Jace blinked. Here? In this place of crystal and cold blood? No, she said with a soft smile. Not here. Beside me. He looked away, thinking, You don't need me anymore. I know. She said, That's why I want you. That night, under a sky full of stars, the fireborn queen sat by a campfire on the palace roof with the man who once taught her to kill. But now, she only wanted to live. Across the galaxy, the name Rhea Vatheron became legend, but not because she was royal, not because she was strong, because she rose from the ashes of shame and became a queen no one dared to break again.